Hello and welcome to the Churros y Tácticas Podcast. We are here on a Monday to discuss the first weekend back for La Liga after the new year. Discuss things like Barcelona squeaking by, holding for dear life against Huesca. As Ter Stegen said after the game, those are the games that win you the title. But you know what else wins you titles? Luis Suarez and Marcos Llorente and Atletico also coming away with a huge last-second win against Alaves. And hey, Real Madrid ain't going anywhere yet. So joining me, Kiyan Sobhani, as always, is Diego Lorijn. Diego, how you doing?
Good, man. Good. I can tell that you prepped for this intro. You know, there's sometimes where we kind of wing it. It's also the first time I think that I can remember in a long time that you didn't do your corny jokes as in who's going to do the intro or go ahead. I'm waiting,
I forgot.
Like you went straight for it.
I forgot, and I felt very rude about it.
You're coming with your guns loaded, and you prepped for this. So I'm strapped in and ready to go for this ride wherever you want to take.
I'm sorry I didn't offer you the intro beforehand.
You're right. I was just sitting there waiting. What am I going to answer today? And you just went straight forward. So good.
As George Costanza always says, the reach is important. You have to offer, even if you're not going to do it. You have to offer. And I didn't offer, so I'm sorry. This was also the Seville derby weekend, which is one of the talking points, one of the many talking points, I guess. But what was the main thing that stood out to you this weekend? Because we had Real Madrid against Celta, obviously. We had the Seville derby. We had Barca Huesca. We had a very dramatic finish in the Atletico Alaves game, and probably just some things off the top of my head I'm forgetting. But where do you want to start? Actually, do you want to start with Barca?
No, I mean we got to start with the league leaders, Atletico,
Okay.
Because if anything, that quote that is obviously a quote. I'm referring to the Ter Stegen one you just mentioned. It's a quote that we hear many times. There's nothing new that he said, but I think it's more applicable to Alaves coming away with 3 points. Excuse me, Atletico rather coming away with the 3 points against their match against Alaves, and again cementing their candidacy, or I should say, claim to this year's league title once more. These are the games. These are los campos también. These are the stadiums where that you win the champions or you end up becoming champions of La Liga. And I think that and Luis Suarez scoring again, the whole team just looking pretty well, I would say, all in all, from Llorente to Carrasco. What's noteworthy for me is that Joao Felix we're seeing him on the bench, right? So I asked you, by the way, last time, I think he came off the bench. So I asked you last time if he was our MVP or your MVP for the midway point of the season. I don't know why I have such troubles pronouncing that. Have you noticed that? Like the midway point. Is that how you say it?
Midway point of the season?
Midway point?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. I don't know why that is such a tongue twister.
We all have our own things that we can't pronounce. I have a bunch of them. I have a huge list of them. So you're okay.
So, but he's kind of faded into away from that. At least, he came off the bench, and it's not the first time that we've seen him do so. So, but again, all in all, I think we're looking at the league champion, and I thought theirs was the biggest result of the weekend.
Well, him coming off the bench is really more of a kind of a rest thing. I don't think he's not being demoted or anything. And I will say he did have the assist to Suarez for the goal, and a really a pretty just a cutback across the 6-yard box. And I just think this was the Atletico thing. It's nice to see them have the luxury to rotate. They didn't always have this luxury. They always had a lot of players, but a lot of players in certain positions. But to have the luxury of resting someone like Joao Felix and then getting the uptick in performance from Marcos Llorente and putting him in this game, and Lemar, who's been great of late, Lemar has really risen into the season and has become an important player. He was great also in this game. And he's really the one that kind of allowed Joao Felix to come off the bench because he was playing in that Joao role and was an important offensive player. But I also will say, from that left side again, Yannick Carrasco continues to be really good. And Llorente
Really
himself,
good. Really
who
good.
didn't get to play on the right side as much, he was kind of more of a central presence alongside Koke, still contributed to the attack and obviously scored. And obviously Suarez was involved in that goal too. It was funny, we were talking about Suarez last week, was it? Or maybe it was Friday. When did we record? Sunday, Saturday, Friday? It was a weird one, right? Saturday?
It was it was Friday,
It
but
was?
it was a holiday. It was the first.
Yeah. By the way, I'm just glad that the world is kind of like routines are back now. I was going to say world is back to normal. World is not back to normal. What a weird reality to live in, to think the world is back to normal. But at least Monday, January 4th is like the day where like things, you start to realize what day the week it is again, kind of, right? Because the whole holidays are like, I don't know what it is today. I don't know. Sorry. So like today, both kids went to daycare. My wife went back to work after a year of mat leave, which was like that was.
Oh wow!
It's just
big.
nice to have
That's
that
huge.
normalcy. Yeah, that was a big return to some degree of normalcy. So yeah, when we were recording last time on Friday, we were talking about how Suarez had 8 goals in 11 games. It's the most of the best of any Atletico striker since Radamel Falcao, and now it's 9 and 12, and a game winner.
His second best, right?
I think you and I were looking at it last week and also realized it was his second best. Yeah, so now it's 9 and 12, and the game winner comes in very timely. So fitting to start with the league, the I guess the proclaimed league champions by Churros y Tácticas Podcast. Although I think it was mostly your claim. I don't remember what I claimed. I still think
I definitely claimed it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's actually amazing because when you look at the standings, you know, it's not only that Atletico are first, it's that they're at first with 2 games in hand.
2 games in hand. It's insane.
Yeah.
That's the thing. You look at everything right now, and I mean the fact. It was probably unfair for me to talk about Joao Felix coming off the bench. It wasn't a hit on him, and it wasn't me trying to claim that Diego Simeone has less confidence in him. I just try to highlight the fact that other players, role players like Lemar, as you mentioned, are coming into their own, and they're just looking from front to back to the bench, looking like a championship caliber team where everybody, in order to be a championship caliber team, you need the players to understand their role as well. And I think even though we saw Joao Felix kick up a fuss at times when he was being substituted, at times rightfully so, I would say, I think he's also understanding that he needs to be rested maybe. And it's good because we are seeing other players come out and come into new roles. Carrasco, I thought, was phenomenal. Llorente obviously has proved that he's been excellent this season in his newfound role, as is Lemar. And then you've got the midfield guys, your Koke Saúls, that on, when, as I mentioned, when they have their day, it's a great thing to watch this team play, who I still think can, especially with Luis Suarez, and even though these are prolific numbers for him and in I think Atletico's history, I still want to see them score more goals.
Yes, but it's Atletico, so I don't. They've already had an uptick offensively, and but this is Diego Lorijn. You are the standard of beautiful football and offensive football and everything. Of course, all the good, the beautiful things in football that.
Football total. Yes.
So,
by the way, shout out to our patron who asked for that article that I mentioned, where I mentioned that the science and the data behind. Tiki-taka or Football Total or Pep or Barca DNA style.
Somebody actually asked for that?
And I looked it up. I passed it on to Brendan, I think it was.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not mistaken.
Great.
Yeah.
So, speaking of Football Total, what is going on with
nice
Barca?
Transition.
What is going on with Barca? I wanted to lead. Okay, I wanted to lead with this actually. Okay, I wanted to lead with something. This was the most mortal I've seen Messi play in a long time. And I thought this was this is, we can talk about Barca and some of the interesting tactical wrinkles against Huesca. There are. Maybe I'll just ask you, because you know better than I do. Was there Messi criticism after this game? Or were people kind of avoiding it because it's like, that's taboo. You don't talk like that. You don't talk about him like that.
No, Messi has gotten his fair share of criticism.
For his off-field stuff, yeah, but for his football, does he get? He doesn't get like, oh, this is on Messi. He doesn't get that kind of attention.
He does. There's plenty of people that criticize him. You know, the typical phrase you hear is "no sude la camiseta," like he doesn't sweat the shirt. Es un pecho frío. Is a cold-hearted, cold-chested, sort of passionless player on the pitch that walks. There's plenty of criticism. Come on, Kiyan.
Okay.
But I'm more curious what is your criticism of him against Huesca? I'm more curious, interested in that.
Well, his shooting just was not even close in this game, and his
that ridiculous shot where he seemed drunk, where you're referring to that shot.
Oh, that one was so bad that I just thought he did it on purpose. I thought because it's not possible for Messi to do this. I just thought Messi was that. Yeah. That was not intentional to me. And then if it was, then we'll just put that in the low light reel as well. That one was too. Sometimes the lie is too crazy. It's almost. What's that expression? If the lie is so unbelievable, I guess you just believe it. That was that's what that was. What happened in that moment didn't seem real to me. So I almost just ignored it.
That was weird.
Yeah, it was too weird to analyze. It was
because it wasn't offside. That would have been a shot on goal and a potential goal. So yeah, okay. Well, okay. Yeah. So what his shooting? What other shooting? His the fact that he still hasn't scored a free kick. He had a really good free kick. If anything, we got to give. Props over here to
Alvaro Fernandez was fantastic. He also had the point blank save on Pedri in the 6-yard box. Mm-hmm. There was another one cut out in this game. Yeah, there was at least two. There was at least three, just from my memory, and one of them was the Messi free kick, and then another one was the Pedri one. So I think he deserves a shout out. But Messi also, his touches, his dribbles were off. I thought his decision making was off, which is not something we say about Messi often. He does this thing over the years where he doesn't make the obvious pass because it's Messi. He does something different. So when Dest was wide open on the right, Messi would completely ignore him, but then you would expect him to cut in and do something. He would just cut in and lose it. And his dribbling and passing kind of suffered a little bit. His touches were off. So he also forced some passes into the box, which didn't seem. It just seemed like this was a mortal version of Messi that we don't see too often. I thought he was bad. Look, and him being bad is a huge problem for Barca. I didn't think it was good. I guess his one thing was his assist to De Jong.
He provided the assist.
Yeah, I mean it was he hit a ball into the box, and I thought De Jong did his finishing.
Yeah, it
was awesome. He kind of made that goal. So I don't want to say Messi set that up and it was genius and it was a nice pass, but De Jong had to do a lot in that position because he had to fight off two defenders. He had to bring the ball down. He had to redirect it into the corner. So it was a De Jong goal and a Messi assist, but De Jong had to do a lot to make that a goal. So
it was a good pass. It was a very good pass. It was right to his foot. Yeah.
So it wasn't, but an underlying thing here is that Messi has underperformed his XG by 4 this season, which I believe is one of the league's lowest marks, if not the lowest. And that just can't happen in a Barca team that doesn't know how to score right now.
If you're talking about Messi dependencia and Barca's dependency on Messi, that's been proven and critical over the years, and the fact that he's having his worst season in 15 years is obviously noticeable. But for me, the story is not so much Messi. I didn't think Messi had such a bad game, and you being somebody who more often than not actually is on the praising side of Messi, I'm kind of surprised and taken aback that that's your big story from this game. It pains me to say, because again, I thought started out well, and we saw. I was pleased with Dembele obviously being in the starting lineup ahead of somebody else, and I was pleased with his performance. I was pleased with Pedri's performance. Very pleased with De Jong, who I thought had a good game, and it's great to see him come out and be more, I guess, an offensive-minded player, more determined as well to be a protagonist and make those kind of runs, for example, but also recuperating well. So he's making even Pedri is making defensively his presence felt, which I know in Koeman's system is always, of course, very important. Dest, I was rather disappointed with, didn't have the impact that I would have hoped for. I'm sure he as well, obviously. There needs to be more. Everything was going on Dembele. Everything was going over Jordi Alba and Dembele over on the left, and I think when the players are having a good game like they were, I think Jordi Alba was having, quite frankly, a decent game as well.
I agree.
Then it's quite. Sorry,
I agree with that.
It's quite understandable. And the fact that obviously, Huesca packed their box as well. They played absurdly defensive even for them. They're a side that is more offensive-minded and like to have possession. And the fact they were packing five, a defensive line of five and midfield of four, was very noticeable. Obviously makes the box very crowded and it's difficult to be creative, and you need those explosive players like Dembele and Jordi Alba. And Dest really wasn't neither being sought out or he didn't take that initiative to be more important, make himself more felt, I guess, his presence. So that was disappointing. But then overall, it just kind of like fizzles out, and that's what, again, like I said, I was quite pleased with the beginning. And hopeful, and you're kind of like, okay, well, let's see. In the end, the realistic objective at the end of this season, I think, is now very, we all know, and I've mentioned it on the pod, and that's primarily to finish in the top four, because again, to reiterate a point that's often being discussed here, the fact that, or mathematically, a team has never gone back after falling back or behind by 12 points of the Liga leader. I think that's now cut by 10, but you mentioned yourself, Atletico have 2 games in hand, which is one more than Barca. So it's right. So my point being is I guess my expectations are very realistic and at this point. So the fact that we see Barca start well, you're like, okay, let's see if we can pick up a convincing 3 points, and the fact that it finishes off where Barca's asking for the referee to blow the whistle in the 90 minutes to be over is just, again, it leaves you with a kind of sour taste, right? You're thinking, okay, well, damn it, like 3 points are in the bag, yes, but still this team went the más a menos, right? From more to less, and that drop off is still very noticeable, and it just continues to kind of, these concerns continue to haunt you throughout the season.
Yeah, I think the way this game finished maybe changed the discussion a little bit for me, because I thought Barca, I agree with you. I actually thought Barca as a whole were pretty good. And I think there were a lot of positive things to come away. But I think the last 20 minutes were so frantic and hectic, and Huesca was kind of putting on some pressure, and Ter Stegen had to make a couple of big saves. One of them, the Rafa Mir flick in the 6-yard box in the 64th minute.
Yeah.
That save was low-key and incredible, because he didn't even know about it until the last second. He just sees it come at him, and he has to deal with it. The other one...
But those lights, and they were bothering him when Busquets already flicked it back to him as well.
Busquets
he made a reference to that about the focus, the lights,
Is that what he said? Interesting, because lights are no lights. That play will become a joke, because it was kind of a funny thing that happened, right? Busquets passes it, and Ter Stegen's like, what the hell? But that is actually really difficult to deal with. And he had to deal with that, and he did really well to just... He's a professional goalkeeper, so I don't want to compare myself to him. But imagine you or I, Diego, you or I, in that position, and the ball is just about to go in between the crossbar and our head, and we have to deal with that. And there's lights in our eyes. It's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
So... Ter Stegen coming up big in the last 20, 25 minutes or so, I think changed the discussion a little bit for me. So in the first half, what I saw was that actually Huesca defending with all the bodies that they were, and they had like 9 defenders in the box at times and 11 players in the defensive third altogether, like every single player. Yeah. And even Rafa Mir was like basically playing in front of his own box at times. So even still, I thought they defended poorly. When you look at all the open shots Barca had in the box, like, so you had the De Jong goal, which was actually decently marked, but then you had the Pedri shot, but then you also had the Pedri header, which was a separate occasion. And like, how do you have that many players in the box and just leave 2 players completely free in the box? So I don't think their defense was also that good.
Well, they're not used to it neither. He was a kind of experimenting, which is the big kind of surprise, I guess, even for the players themselves, that he came with an untested system, really.
Oh, Huesca, you mean?
Yeah.
Interesting. Also, on that note,
they asked him afterwards about his if he was scared about how he felt about his job security. He became very emotional, and he openly admitted how he was scared to lose his job. Actually, he kind of begged and pleaded the management not to take any drastic decisions at this point. And if from looking what they've achieved as well, I mean, luck hasn't been on their side. I think the football that they've displayed has been better than what the table is reflecting at the moment.
So I wonder where that puts the discussion in for Michel now after this performance. Like, can they look at the kind of the eye tests and separate it from the results? Because I mean, overall, like, they gave Barcelona a hard time by the end of it, and they barely lost. So it wasn't a terrible performance. I just thought like the way they defended, obviously wasn't great. It's interesting also to revisit Real Madrid's game against Huesca, because obviously I'm sure I've watched them play sporadically, whether it was against somebody like Atleti or Villarreal, but the game against Real Madrid, I don't know how different it was. I'm trying to go back to my notes and see, but in that game, Real Madrid basically had a lot of U-shaped possession that led to just crosses to Ramos sprinting into the box. So I don't think Real Madrid did that much better against Huesca than Barcelona did from a pure performance standpoint. So I don't know. You brought up
Alvaro still needs to get his props, because even though he stopped Messi from at least getting 2 goals, 2-3 goals, and you talk about Messi's XG being low and him having a bad game, but really Alvaro came. There was a minute there, and I think in the 60th, around the 60th minute mark, where the little touch pass might have been with Jordi Alba that sets up Messi really nice, for that kind of left, shot on the left post, or the near left post, I should say, and he, like, Messi just sends off a rocket, and he manages to stop it. So again, he had a really good game.
Yeah, and let's be honest, like, Messi aside, I think just looking at Pedri's 2 chances, and also Dembele had a huge one that also was saved.
Big, yeah.
That should have been like, probably should have been like 3-0 or something for Barca.
Which is what makes it hard. It makes it hard for me to kind of be so down on Koeman and this team at the moment. And I know, people listening, and if I would mention this on Twitter, would just call me a Koeman fanatic. And it's not so much that, it's just you see the team, you see the chances that are created. We know that this team has been the team that has had the most shots on goal since, I think it was the last 7 years. It's also the team that has underperformed the most, meaning they need more shots to convert goals in that same time span, which is obviously not a good sign. But I just wonder, given momentum, given the current state of everything, like, you can apply Murphy's Law to this team. Everything that has gone wrong or could have gone wrong has gone wrong, and if you would just have that little switch of momentum where those kind of chances, sometimes very clear chances, do go in, you wonder if this team would be able to at least go into a different mind frame and have a different, momentum and different results as well thereby. And that is the question mark I have. Now, it's, I think football is defined by such small details, right? And part of those details are also whether a ball crosses the line, obviously, or not, and whether a keeper's in the way or a foot or whatever. I don't know, Kiyan. I don't know if you think that maybe, I guess what I'm trying to say is this team as bad as we think, or is there, kind of, if it's just shit luck really at the moment as well? Besides that, can improvements be made, and do improvements have to be made? Absolutely. But let's not forget that this team is also without, Gerard Piqué, without Ansu, without very important pieces to this team, and players can stop getting injured. Coutinho, who you can argue, well, maybe it's a blessing that he's not going to play anymore. I don't know. But the fact that he is out, it just shows that Koeman is having to deal with a lot of players being injured in unusual circumstances as well. So it's difficult. It's difficult for me where to put this team exactly. And I guess I'm mainly saying that because the thing trending now is Koeman out, and I don't know, with given different circumstances, this team would have actually been able to get better results.
Yeah, look, well, let's discuss that, because I think there are things to be, I guess, encouraged by if you're a Barcelona fan. And one of them was, look, maybe it's a bit ironic, but the podcast after you talked about Football Total and all this, and although that is probably every podcast, so it's hard to say, Koeman comes in with the 4-3-3. Don't remember the last time I saw that. But one really encouraging thing here was Ousmane Dembele, I thought, because, if we're being really honest, Dembele, when he's healthy, brings something to the table that you haven't had since Neymar left. And he's not Neymar, but he probably the closest thing you've had to something like him on that wing.
He's a different kind of player, yeah.
He's a different kind of player, and I thought he operated really well both on the left, but also kind of the left half space, playing in the middle a little bit. And I'm just... I also thought his synergy with Alba was pretty good. He was a good outlet. His runs on the counter were dangerous. Great cross to Pedri. Pedri's
when
big
he
chance
takes off.
Yeah, and his Pedri's chance in the box, the header, that was a great cross from Dembele. His passing was good.
Absolutely.
And he was constantly making runs. There was an interesting kind of turning point with him, I thought. I don't know if you noticed this, but he has a really bad giveaway in the 49th minute, because it was a big chance, and that was kind of his first mistake, where he has a really heavy touch, and it was a great opportunity. And after that, I thought his touches were a bit off and clumsy after that in general. I don't know if that was just
his mojo.
Yeah, maybe he lost his mojo in that moment. I also was curious to know, did you think maybe there was something wrong with the pitch? Maybe because it was so cold, the touches were kind of off in general, I thought.
Yeah.
There was something kind of leg heavy about. I don't know if it was something with the pitch, a frozen pitch, maybe. I don't know. It looked cold, and it looked a bit. It was flow as well. Cold. I mean,
Yeah.
So yeah. Those are my thoughts.
Yeah, call me a hopeful, delusional optimist, but I don't know. I just feel like this team could do better if, that luck factor was a little bit more on their side. I feel like this team has been very unlucky. Not as unlucky as others, that's for sure. Hashtag Valencia, hashtag, whole bunch of other teams, I guess. By the way, interesting, massive news, of course, with Garitano getting fired from Atletico Club, with their games in hand as well. I think they're facing. Athletic is now facing Barça, Real Madrid, and Atletico. I don't know exactly, think in that order as well for the next 3 games. So it'll be interesting to see what Marcelino is going to be able to do. And obviously, this is a massive task on his first 3 match days in charge.
I'm happy for Marcelino, because I think this news broke during the Barcelona game yesterday, was it not? Because I just remember...
it was in fact. Yeah, okay. Of course.
Yeah, because I just remember the commentator saying Garitano... Marcelino now has a job at Atletico. I was like, wait a minute. I had to think about that for a second. I was like, what's going on? Mm-hmm. So happy to see him back. And Athletic were weren't free falling, but certainly just there was something missing. They were lacking creativity offensively, and again, transition defense wasn't good. And just things weren't really clicking for them. So I let's see where this goes. I have a couple of Real Madrid things I wanted to hit you with. not necessarily related to Celta Vigo, but more of like big picture things. So there's a couple things. I mean, today the biggest two things really are Kubo looks like he's going to Getafe. And and that's one interesting thing. A lot of Alaba noise today too, but let's just save that for if and when it actually happens.
Yeah, what's up with that?
I have some thoughts on that, but I just maybe a little bit premature to talk about it now.
I think so.
Kubo,
more interested in Kubo, to be honest.
What's that?
That I'm more interested on the Kubo, him obviously leaving Emery and Villarreal, which I thought was going to be a match made in heaven. I've been stunned by this entire process and progress or lack thereof, I should say. And him leaving for a team like Getafe, which I think, Villarreal would be much better suited for him, his style of football.
Yeah, so similar sentiment. So maybe to just do a quick timeline of this whole Kubo to Villarreal thing and how it happened and what was going to happen and what happened throughout the whole thing, what went wrong. So Emery, before this whole loan thing became official, was very high on Kubo, spoke very highly about him, reportedly pushed for Kubo to get loaned there. Kubo arrives, and like his stint in Mallorca, he did not become a starter right away, nor did he play right away. With Mallorca, it literally took half a season. He was taking advantage of these 5-10-minute cameos, and it was clear in those 5-10 minutes he was like their best offensive player. So eventually he just became an undisputed starter, rightfully so, because he was a great creator, great dribbler, and a source of offense. With Villarreal, I thought, and many of us thought, that this would eventually happen for him. Like eventually he would work his way into the team because it's cool. This is how it works. Loan spells don't always start. Our new signings don't always start with the bank. Sometimes it just takes time, understandably. And obviously it's Villarreal. So like when you picture Villarreal, you picture fast, free-flowing football, right? Like quick counterattacks, all that. Like that, perfect. Put him on the right. Yeah. Let's see this thing work. So I think a few things worked against him here, and in no particular order. One was that, when we talk about Villarreal strikers, then, not now, just describing the situation then, we're talking about Paco Alcácer and Gerard Moreno, who, you want to try to play both of them if you can, because they can both score and Moreno can do even more than that. And so Emery was doing this thing where he'd go Alcácer in the middle, Moreno on the right, where Kubo could have been playing. And the other variable in this was Samu Chukwueze, who, in a similar position as
really
Kubo,
good,
right, and a really good young player, and in a vacuum, basically the same type of player, lazy winger who can create, who can dribble, who can shoot, and
very well.
Yeah, and so one of the things that happened was that happened. So, and then it was Samu who was coming off the bench over Kubo for a while. Now, what was interesting is that whether it was Samu or Kubo who come on, it didn't seem like Emery liked either Samu or Kubo, in the sense that Emery wants to have his players defend, and he's very like we need to make sure we don't concede goals, and neither Samu or Kubo were good defensive players. Like Kubo has a long way to go to kind of sharpen his skill set, and just tracking Kubo all this time this season. A few things I noticed, these are the commonalities, and this kind of goes back to his Mallorca days. So when his initial touch on the ball is beautiful. Like he can turn in and out of space. Like if the ball is coming, like a vertical pass is coming to him, and there's a defender on his back, you'd put your money on Kubo getting out of that situation really beautifully, and he just turns his defender, gets into space. From that moment, his final ball is lacking. He doesn't make the right pass, and if he does, he underhits it, he overhits it, or he just gives it away. So that part of it is lacking a little bit. The other two things, one is if he's being pressured deep, he gets a little bit uncomfortable, he loses the ball. And the third thing is that he doesn't really know where to be defensively. So the third one in particular is something that Emery really emphasizes. Just make sure we don't concede goals. So and Samu wasn't doing much better this season. So sometimes Kubo would be the preferred option. Sometimes it would be Samu. Sometimes and oftentimes it would be neither. Now with Paco Alcácer being kind of unreliable just with injuries and stuff, and you never really know if he's going to be healthy or not and all that stuff, part of me thought, as unfortunate as that was for Alcacer, part of me thought that, well, this could be good for Kubo, right? So, his muscle injury in December. Yeah, I mean, he had tendon problems in November, but also a big muscle injury since December 7th, which he's still out for. And I thought, well, this could work because Moreno could go centrally and you can put Kubo on the right. But Fernandinho has been a revelation in a lot of ways for Villarreal.
Yeah.
And he just scored on the weekend
in the making as well.
In the making, yeah. So now
we saw already last year.
Yeah, and so now he's being groomed into that role with Moreno on the right. So it's an unfortunate thing.
Which makes sense as well because they know that Kubo can be checked out after this season. This is a long-term project as well, where a player like Fernandinho, he'll be around for the ride, whereas Kubo, who knows where he would have been. So I get that decision making as well. But you explained it very detailed and very clearly.
Yeah, and all of that. Look, that's why these 2-year loan spells have always, it seems like, have worked better than 1-year loan spells because the club feels just a little bit more invested because it's a 2-year thing rather than a 1-year thing where we're going to, we groom someone's player and then say bye to them. But I do think now it's interesting because of all places, Getafe, very defensive minded.
Talk about his defensive frailty.
Yeah, and we're talking about like a very defensive minded team, and who was on that wing? Neom, and he here's I think, because all signs point to this not working at Getafe because of the way they play, and it's not like they have a free spot there regardless, right? So and by the way, maybe I guess it's maybe a disservice to say Kubo is only a right winger, right? We've seen him play centrally at times, we've seen him play on the left. I mean, Cucurella has the left spot on lockdown because look, Cucurella and Neom, they play on the wings, they don't even play on their wing back. So you have Damian, Suarez, Neom, and then Oliveira and Cucurella on the other side. So if where are you gonna play him? If you're not gonna play him on the wing, are you gonna displace Jaime Mata as a striker? I don't know if I see that. Cucho Hernandez, I don't know if I see that. So regardless, I guess here's where it could work.
They need goals.
That's the thing. These guys, Getafe, are free falling. So I don't know if Bordalas is looking at in that Kubo situation and be like, well, he can't help us because he doesn't defend, he doesn't do this. Like, his team literally can't do anything right now. They can't. So maybe they just need to shift some pieces and bring in an attacking weapon. Maybe they need that. So that's where I would go against the grain a little bit. And while everyone's saying this can't work, that's where it could work. It's like you're joining a team who desperately needs some offense and some attacking something. So maybe he can help. And who's
they need a Brahim Gil.
They need a Brahim Gil. Yeah, everyone needs a Brahim Gil. But maybe Bordalas can also help Kubo improve. I mean, that's one thing I think Real Madrid fans haven't really grappled with properly yet. That maybe that this actually can be a good thing. I don't know. I don't know the answer. Maybe it's even worse. Yeah. But if it goes right, it's because I think Bordalas can teach him new things, and it's in a team that is a really good team. But just this year they've been so bad, they need help.
What is your hope? I mean, what is your looking into the long term? What's your hope with Kubo though at this point? Just 6 months at Getafe, and then next team, or
well, I guess it
spot at Real Madrid's bench.
Well, I guess it depends on. I don't see him coming back to Real Madrid next season, but I guess it depends on how this stint at Getafe would go. If it goes well, then I think the ideal thing for all parties involved is to just keep him there for another year and see how that goes.
You followed his progress closely at Villarreal. I mean, how were you impressed by his performances, the ones that he did make out on the pitch?
On and off. And usually when he comes off the bench, he can make a positive impact, especially like games where you actually give him time. Like it's not like a 85th minute appearance, right? It's like when he comes, like there were games where he came, there was recently, I think it was against Huesca actually, a few games ago, where he came in after 45 minutes and was awesome. Completely turned the game on its head. Was dribbling through everyone. Was getting on the end of good chances, and played really well. There were other games, even in the Europa League, against teams that I can't even pronounce, that he struggled. He struggled even with that open space. So it was on and off, to answer your question. It wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't what we had hoped. I'll put it that way. It wasn't terrible at times. It wasn't great at times. Sometimes it was just kind of there. Sometimes you wouldn't notice him. Sometimes he would have flashbulb moments of 3 incredible genius sequences, but then a bunch of other mistakes aside of that. So it was kind of a roller coaster with him. So maybe in a structured Getafe, it's just different. I don't know. But I'm not, I guess at first glance, I was like, let's just keep him there, because I don't think it's necessarily better at Getafe. But I suppose the more this goes on this way, then I've become more open to it. Even like since last week, I've become more open to it. Yeah. So
we'll see. We'll see. All the best.
I mean, you must be a little bit surprised, right? Because you were a huge Kubo fan.
I am. I still am. I mean, you know, his story writes itself, and his talent as well is. You know, it's like I said, I've admitted many times, I was envious of the fact that obviously he's under the Madrid ranks now, and looks like a very talented prospect, no doubt about it. But as I mentioned at the time as well, as we talked about, it all depends as well now, you know, how you can nurture that talent and give some progress to it, give some continuation to it. And that'll depend a lot on, you know, the manager, the style of football and play, the manager, the team that he will play for, and how they can nurture that, how they can hone that. That's el peligro, right? That's the danger that we talked about that time, where in a club like Real Madrid that buys up very young talents, only to then loan them out, and it can stunt their progress, no doubt about it. Let's hope that in Kubo's case that won't be the case, and we can see, like we said, a talent like Brahim Gil sort of emerge, because those are the talents that are going to give, you know, continuity as well to Spanish football, to La Liga to be, and the teams as well in La Liga to still be amongst the best, and because there's some really great talent, young talent at the moment out there that needs to be, like I said, nurtured and honed.
Yeah. I don't know what like the timeline would be, but certainly I don't think he's coming back to Real Madrid next season, and he still has some
no,
which is okay, you know.
Yeah.
I'm okay if he takes his time with it. So
he should go to Ajax, a team like that. I mean, and I would have said he should go to a team like Villarreal, and that's why. You know, it's interesting to hear the breakdown you just gave with Alcácer and Gerard, and obviously Chukwueze as well on the bench. Chukwueze on his good day is such a phenomenal talent. It's almost a shame we don't see that more consistent, because he's got some awesome football as well in his boots. And yeah, that's it.
Did you?
So we'll see.
I have. Can I flip this on a completely different direction now?
Flip the switch.
Because I'm gonna just flip the switch. No transition. Did you see Steph Curry drop 62 last night?
Shit, no, I did not. I didn't actually.
So I didn't see it. I just saw it, but I just saw that he did it. But then I saw his last 2 3-pointers to make it 59 and 62 points. And if nothing else, just watch those, because it was like peak Steph Curry in every sense. It was incredible to watch. Just those 2 3-pointers.
Okay.
Like the way it went down, it was like, oh, this is nice. This is nice to see this again. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to see that.
Yeah.
Was the commentating legendary?
I don't know. I didn't watch I don't remember what the commentary was.
Was it like, you know, those 2 minutes where Steph is in the zone just hitting one after the other, and you hear the commentator go, "A spectacular play by Stephen Curry."
Yeah, probably. I think I remember the commentator doing. I don't think it was Mike Breen or somebody like that. Maybe it was the Warriors local announcer. I don't know. But yeah, I'm sure they were excited.
What are his names? See, I'm actually transitioning and setting myself up for a little promo here, because right before we hit record, I was actually going over this kind of docu-series on Barca TV Plus, for which I did some voiceovering, and it's called The Court. And it's basically like match day, but for the basketball team. And it follows the beginning, so the arrival of Mirotic and a whole crop, a bunch of new players that started off the season really well. And then the season obviously got halted like all the other professional sports in the world, for that matter, when the pandemic hit. And I was just, can I play this for you? Like it's me doing a voiceover for this pretty emotional piece where you're hearing it's the reason why it's special for me, Kiyan, and that's also another reason why I bring it up, is because me growing up, I don't know if you did this, but I would like record NBA what's it called, NBA Countdown, or any kind of NBA game that I would catch on TV and put it in an original language and just listen to certain plays, like the top 10 countdown being narrated kind of by how these highlights get commentated by announcers, right? Especially American and basketball announcers just fascinated me. Like I forget their names, but the spectacular move by Michael Jordan, or just going down the middle, going down the baseline, goes in for the scoop shot, scores. I would rewind that, Kiyan, and listen to it over and over and over, where words would come out of my mouth. I wouldn't even necessarily know what I was saying. So for me to do this, where I did this piece for The Court, where I'm highlighting this passionate kind of piece and these plays for the Barca basketball team, brought good feeling and kind of made me think that maybe I should do, because we talked about in the pod how I have big respect, and you as well, for basketball commentators, and how it's kind of like an art that I'm almost scared. Like I sometimes I have to do it because it comes with a job, and it came with La Liga TV and now for Barca TV as well. So I have to do matches, but I think I'm really shit at it. I don't think I'm good. Whereas with basketball, I actually feel like a fish in water. I feel much more in my element and much more comfortable doing it.
It's a different style,
and probably because it's a completely different style as well. And I think a better understanding and maybe I could say passion for basketball. Like, if you tell me, if I'm out with, let's say a date night with the wife, and you would say, Diego, you got to come home right now because, Osasuna's playing Getafe, or, Boston are playing the Clippers. Well, that's a big game. And let me be fair here. With all respects to Osasuna and Getafe, Orlando, Knicks, or I don't know. I would almost rather go home and watch the basketball, and that's no disrespect to my wife. Obviously, number one would be the wife, stay for dinner with her and finish date night. But if a gun's being put to my head and say you have to either watch either or, I'd probably swing for the basketball, because it's the sport I played the longest in my life. Actually, I mean, it's so yeah. I don't know. I think basketball commentating, that's maybe something I could see myself dab into after listening to this bit of The Court, which if you're curious and I think it adds value to our listeners, I'm happy to play it. A little bit of self-promo, but hey, I'm excited to show this piece.
Well, I don't know how it will come through into the recording, but why don't...
Well, I'll play it. You tell me if it's shit. If it's good, if it's shit, you can edit it out. If you don't mind the editing work, that is.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. Okay, well, let's see how it comes out. You'll tell me, and I'll keep listening. You tell me to stop if not.
Massive victory for Barca against the stunned Real Madrid. The home campaign for the year ends with a huge win. Who can stop this? Nobody can stop this ex-NBA player. Comes Rambo into traffic with the double. Fast security to stop the shoots. Scores 3 points. To get 2 points and the win to his team. 3 seconds from the end. Barca are now leaders of the ACB League, ahead of Real Madrid with 19 wins and just 4 defeats.
Here comes the best one.
Has done it again. A bucket with just 4/10 of a second remaining to take
I'll stop it there. I don't know how was that coming through.
You can understand what was happening. It came out pretty good. So that gives me an idea. You know how like
what?
And by the way, I think the reason why the basketball style is a little bit more kind of maybe easier for you or more fun for you is because it's a lot more short bursts of action, right? So there's scores on nearly every possession. There's quick things to hit. Rather than football, you got to fill in a lot of space, I find, right?
Yeah, man.
So
yeah.
You know, people ask us to do live commentary. We could just kick back, watch some basketball games, do some live commentary. The time difference kills it for you, these NBA games. But you know, if there's if there's a big game, you just kick back, go on YouTube, talk some football, talk some basketball. You throw in some commentary, done deal.
I wouldn't. You know what? The time difference is obviously massive because you're talking 3 a.m. kind of tip off. You know, depending East Coast, West Coast, but that's the timings you're looking at. But I'd be up for it, man. I mean, I would be willing to experiment and dive into that if that's something that we want to explore, or you know, our patrons would like us to explore.
Yeah. Let's we'll wait for the feedback to come in. So in the meantime, I gotta go. I have an appointment.
One at a time. Yes.
Patreon.com/Churros y Tácticas if you want access to Friday's bonus shows, and follow us on Twitter at Churros Tácticas without the Y. And stay safe. Happy New Year. Diego, thanks, my man. Take care. We'll talk soon.
All right, dude. Peace. Ciao.